Hello and welcome to my full moon reading. This is the full moon reading for the full moon at the end of April, and it's in the full moon in Scorpio. And this full moon in Scorpio is in opposition to Venus and Mercury and Lilith and of course the Sun, because it's a full moon, and Uranus. So it is a little bit of a wild one in the sense that it has to do with a lot of desire, a lot of needs that are emerging that we want to have. But I will come to that later, and I will first have a look at my cards. And the theme of this full moon is with Karen, with challenge, and with Litha. And it is interesting because it seems that this full moon is, as we will see later in the astrology, is a little bit of a challenge because we are still in a time of transition. 2020 was a time many things had to leave. 2020 was a time of closure. This Saturn-Jupiter conjunction on the winter solstice, there was a spark of the new, and with this beautiful Aquarius new moon, there was again another spark of the new, but we are still in a time of transition with Karen. And it is a challenge for us because Litha is the card that is connected to the summer solstice, and the summer solstice is the full enjoyment of life, the fullness of life. Yeah, some say that the virus has caused us, that everyone goes into their own exile, goes into their own monastery to really think about their lives, which might be true. But nevertheless, we are so done with that. We are so tired and so exhausted, and we want to finally live and enjoy life and enjoy food and enjoy sex and enjoy nature and be with other people. But this full moon says, we're still in a time of transition. It is not yet time. And in the past, what I like is that with Chiron and with Parzival and with Inanna, I like that the message of the past is that we really are determined to have learned from the past. The past has wounded us. The past made us go onto a vision quest. With Parzival, we really said, I have to find out why this happened to me maybe again. Maybe it is a theme that hurt you. Maybe it was just a one-time event. There had been a need for many of us to go on a vision quest. What is that I have to learn from that? What is that I have to change in myself? And with Inanna, the beautiful thing is that Inanna is about a new way of connecting to other people out of the inner sovereign, because Inanna is the goddess of the heavens. She is the old Sumerian goddess of the heavens, and she is beauty and power in itself. And in her journey to the underworld of Ereshkigal, she is forced to put all her insignia down, but it doesn't matter to her because she is a queen. She is a real queen, and if you are a real queen, you don't need outside proof or the constant outside confirmation that you are lovable. You just know you are a queen, and out of your queen, it is easier for you to reach out to other people. It is easier for you to forgive others. Your heart gets widened in your sovereign. And I feel this is beautiful, that many of us through this time of crisis, through this time of reflection, we learned a new way to communicate. And we want already the new to have happened, but the cards say that it still needs a little bit of time. There is change, there is Pershta, and there is Pachamama. The positive is that the cards confirm that the change is coming. It is definitely coming. But with Perchta, Perchta is a Bavarian goddess. She rides across the winter sky from December 21st to January 6th. And she gets rid of everything that is not needed anymore. Or she takes the dead people with her and everything that is not needed. So I would say in this combination it says there are things you still have to get rid of. There are maybe decisions you have to make. It is not just one big yes, it is a time of deciding, and decision takes time. It takes time to make wise decisions, and these cards say the change is coming, but it is better to take your time. And I also pulled a card for things we maybe might not see, and what is beautiful is that there is sacred garden, and I feel that the advice from the card is, if you feel torn between this, I want everything and I want it now and I want to enjoy life to its fullest, and the other voice inside you or events that happen to you that say, take your time, no, you cannot have everything, you need to be patient. And this card, or the advice of the card, say, go into your inner sacred garden, your inner temple, where there is already everything you need, where everything you want is already there in its most beautiful sparkle, in its most magical existence, and that in your sacred soul there is the ecstasy of divine love, and that this ecstasy is something that gives you peace. It sounds like a contradiction, but it is not, because to have inner peace is a very fine form of ecstasy. And we will see in the astrology that ecstasy is really a theme. Yeah, overall I would say that I think the next week will be a little bit challenging, that we have to limit our desires. And it is possible, but it is a time to live out our sensuality, but to accept when there are limitations and to trust that there might be something good in it. Because in the astrology, we have Saturn squaring the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Uranus and Lilith in opposition to the Moon in Scorpio. So there is a lot of restless energy, and I would say restless desire, and this restless desire is in square to Saturn. A very passionate moon, and with Saturn there is this energy that says yes, but limited. Yes, but. So it is, I called it the moon of the reality check on desires. Because this moon is with Lilith, and Black Moon Lilith, and Neptune is conjunct Pallas Athena and the asteroid Lilith, it might also be a time of social unrest, especially regarding women, because the Black Moon Lilith, the Dark Moon Lilith and the asteroid Lilith is like the three-folded dark goddess, the divine feminine that had been oppressed. All the aspect of the wild woman. Lilith is the Kali energy, the energy that stands for the wild, wise woman. The wild woman that is ecstatic, the wild woman that is magical, but it is a suppressed wild woman, and it is suppressed in men and it is suppressed in women. Where Lilith is with men, we often find guilt, and where there is Lilith in those who are connected to the feminine, there is shame. Rick Levine, a famous astrologer, once said that Saturn is the planet that first says no to say yes afterwards. And in this case I would say Saturn is the planet that says give it a second thought. And a second thought for women would be, it is one thing to speak out against violent men and against men who abuse women, or suppress women, but we also have to confront our own shadow in this, and the shaming and the blaming we have against the wild woman inside of us and maybe around us. However we speak out against abusers, we also have change our own attitude towards the wild woman, and to free ourselves in that, and to own the shame that we carried for so many centuries, and to realize, no, it is not just done with the sexual revolution in the 60s. It takes generations to overcome that shame. We never overcome shame by blaming. We overcome shame by owning and re-empowering ourselves. And Lilith has to do in its light. Lilith has to do with re-empowerment of the dark feminine. And dark in this case doesn't mean evil. I mean, Lilith had been demonized, but in this case it means that which is not seen, that which is in the dark because it's not seen or not visible, and to allow that to emerge. And for men it means to free yourself from the guilt that you still hold, and the fear maybe that you still hold towards this feminine strength. It will be interesting to observe what will happen the next weeks. Will there be some significant female protests? We will see, but the astrology for me says that there is a huge chance that there will be. Yeah, there is a trine from Mars in Cancer to the Moon, and it is a mutual reception between the Moon in Scorpio and Mars in Cancer, because traditionally Scorpio was ruled by Mars. In traditional astrology they say that Mars is debilitated in Cancer, which I don't know. This is again a question, is that so, or is it a patriarchal way of looking at things? Is Venus in Aries really debilitated, or is it just the warrior Venus? And is Mars in Cancer debilitated, or is it just the more defensive Mars? And defensive can be really aggressive, and defensive doesn't mean weak. Defensive can be really aggressive. I mean, everyone who knows defensive people know that defensive can be really aggressive. So I wouldn't say that Mars in Cancer to me is really debilitated, but whatever. To me this is an old way of looking at things. But nevertheless, to me this trine to Mars is, again, has to do with I want it now, but it is not so easy for us to act out. It is more this kind of, I expect that from others. This is what I want, and if I don't get it, I'm a little bit pissed off. I don't like that. So this is the childish Mars in Cancer, and the mature Mars in Cancer is, I feel everything around me, and because I feel everything around me, I cannot just see my own desires. And I would say that is the best approach towards this full moon, to say it is an eruption of desire, but it seems that many people will feel this eruption. So I try to feel into the field of everyone. And with Neptune and the asteroid Lilith and Pallas Athena, there's actually a chance to what I talked about before, this spiritual ecstasy that has to do with inner peace. And everyone who experienced true inner peace knows how ecstatic inner peace can be. And the ecstasy of inner peace is not New Age sugarcoating. The ecstasy of inner peace is described by many saints. So I would say this inner peace will help us to overcome this tension between our inner desires and the restrictions and the walls we will run into, the laws we will run into, the no's we will run into. And to remember that if we run into those no's, that, like Rick Levine says, a no of Saturn is a yes later. So it is a full moon that says to the desires, take your time, give it a second thought, or your wish to speak up for the feminine, or to speak up for certain issues around women, or to speak up in Venus relationships, but to say, give it a second thought, don't rush it, don't overdo it. Yeah, I mean, the 3 full moons of spring are very sacred in many traditions, because they say that there is a lot of spiritual energy that comes in, and this cycle starts with the Easter full moon, and the culmination point is now at the Scorpio full moon, and then the final point is on May 26 on the Sagittarius full moon. Officially they celebrate the Vesak full moon on May 26. Some will say that the Vesak full moon is now at the end of April, because the sun is in Taurus and Buddha was Taurus. The Vesak fest has to do with Buddha, because Buddha was Taurus, Buddha was born as a Taurus, Buddha under the Bodhi tree got enlightenment during the time of Taurus, and Buddha left this earthly plane around this time. So it is a triple Taurus Buddha, which is interesting because Buddha always said that desires cause suffering, and Taurus is the sign of sensuality and enjoying life and really diving into sensual pleasure. So that to me is really fascinating. But whether it is now this Vesak full moon or it is next time, but these spring full moons are culmination points of really letting the spirit enter us and experiencing spiritual ecstasy, and out of this inner peace we will know which desire is worth to follow, even against the restriction of Saturn, because the Saturn-Uranus square that's going on for the whole year is about the reflection, what do I want to live against all odds? And there are certain desires and certain needs and certain wishes we want and we have to fulfill against all odds. There is a difference between deciding out of inner peace or deciding out of obsession. And if we remind ourselves of the spiritual qualities that this full moon has, then we can enjoy the fruition that it will bring. I would suggest that you really meditate on this full moon and the next full moon, that you really meditate and let all the light in. Whether this full moon is the Vesak full moon or the next full moon, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. Some say this way, some say that way, but it is definitely a full moon that is very close to the earth, so it is a super full moon, and we should really take that opportunity to let this high energy in, allow to experience inner ecstasy, and out of this inner ecstasy enjoy the pleasures of life. And out of our inner peace we will know whether this Saturn restriction is a no that is better to accept, or whether it is something that we have to fight for against all odds. Out of our inner peace we will know. So most of all, I wish you this inner peace, and I wish you a lot of joy and pleasure in this Scorpio full moon. Lots of love. Namaste.